first time that you're seeing men skating, and for some, the first time in 40 years. And first up, we have a combination of Connecticut Death Quads, one of the newer men's teams, versus the New York Shock Exchange, the undefeated champions in men's derby. They are, ladies and gentlemen, Death Shock. First we have, at 407 years, Abraham Drinkin. Number 19, Circle Jerk. Number 61, Filthy McNasty. Number 1819, Fro Sirius. And for you rollerball fans, number 6, Jonathan R. Marlon Brando, number 14. Number 42, Pastor of Muppets. Teen Wolf, number 111, number 111. T-Stop Tornado, 517. Zach Sabbath, number 4. And we have the co-captain for Death Shock, Skate Freed, 121. And the captain, your captain of Death Shock, Vader. His number is Force. Now, Mr. Dirty Marty.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I expect every bit as much energy for the team that combines the Dirty Dozen from Pioneer Valley with Baltimore's own Harm City Homicide. Ladies and gentlemen, make a lot of noise for Dirty Homicide. Woo! Number 49 is Bazooka Joe. Number 78, Davy Jones. Number 88, Gearhead. Number 8, President Groper Cleavage.
Actually, that's Infinity, I realize.
Number YT 1300, Hung Solo. Number 21, Jack of Hertz. Number 1993, Jurassic Park. Number 1954, Justice Feelgood Marshall. Number 1 asterisk, Sin Diesel. Number 1955, Roland Redshirt. Number 84, VF, Will Jettison. Team co-captain, 113 volts, Dr. Spankenstein. And captain of Dirty Homicide, number 523, Virginia Slim. Ladies and gentlemen, keep screaming, this is Dirty Homicide.
I just want to clarify that the mustaches we've seen on Charm City Girls, for Harm City skaters, those are real. They are not fake mustaches.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen at home, Derby fans across the country. I am Chip Queso. This is Reverend Almighty here on DNN. We're taking a little break from the wonderful, absolutely amazing atmosphere here at Dorton Arena from the women's, and we're going to see a little bit of man's derby, Merby, if you will. But it's serious this time. It's a full bout. These guys have been really working hard. They're mostly built from the East Coast, I believe. And in fact, I'm going to turn it over to Reb because he knows a lot more about these guys than I do.
You guys hear the sound behind me. It's the first time we've heard a sound like that in a regional tournament. My feet are cold because I remember about 3 years ago somebody talked about men's roller derby, and they said when hell freezes over, that must be happening because we are at Eastern Regionals, and we are about to call off Circle Jerk skating with the Stock Exchange against Justice Feelgood Marshall for the Dirty Homicide, and we are on our first pass.
Oh, here we go. And I'm really excited to see the difference in the action between the women and the men. You want to automatically think they're going to play a lot harder and a lot tougher, but a graceful move by Circle Jerk to get through the pack to get lead jammer here on his about the second pass of the pack.
Circle Jerk usually plays with the Connecticut team, the Death Quads. He is the coach of the Connecticut Stepford Sabotage girls. A lot of these guys got into roller derby because, as we can see, they've been involved in this sport for a long time. Justice Feelgood Marshall, Bazooka Joe, Slim, all these guys have been involved in derby since its inception as skaters, as coaches, A few years ago, a guy by the name of Bazooka Joe said, I'm taking it to the big show, decided to create Men's Derby, and here we are, man.
So already out using the women's rules, Justice Feelgood gets released from the pack, makes a jump back in, cutting, getting a minor, getting it just the same way that they're going to call it in the women's sport. How close are the rules to what we see in the WFTDA?
They are exactly the same rule set. They go by the WFTDA 4.0. There is absolutely no difference between the rule set. The only real difference you're going to see in this style of roller derby is the fact that the men tend to hit more with their upper bodies. They hit with their shoulders.
Not quite as hip.
Yeah,
Actually. I got you.
We
All
don't
right.
have the booty to do the blocks, so we don't
exactly.
even
Our
try.
booty last spot. And on the line on the inside position, wearing yellow up top, black base, would be Jonathan R., number 6 for the Death Shock.
That is Jurassic Park out there for the Dirty Homicide. Jurassic Park known for skating on, yes, those are rental skates. He bought a pair of rental skates and has been using them ever since, but it's Jonathan R. that comes through and gets lead jammer status.
Absolutely. He squeezed through. These guys are phenomenal. Most of the derby that I've experienced down south is a mixed match of teams who haven't been able to work together and be as fluent. These guys, you say, have been working quite a bit, and I can already tell this is going to be hard packed. I hope you're at home watching.
As we heard our home announcer say, this right here is 4 teams broken down into 2 teams. It's kind of their all-stars. It's the Death Exchange, the Death Quads and the Shock Exchange against the Dirty Dozen and the Harm City Homicide. They put their all-stars together because they wanted to put on the big show. But through the New England region now, there are about 12 men's roller derby leagues. They've been going at it for about 2 years now. I've been lucky enough to call some of the bouts. But other than the fact that they're standing up a little taller, their weight might be a little heavier, and they got a little something extra going on in the front of their pad. This is the same roller derby.
Absolutely. Just about 3 minutes down, 27 minutes, and we've got an 8-2 game in favor of the Death Shock in yellow. Number 42, the Pastor, looking down to pray into some points here.
And that's Dr. Spankenstein for the Dirty Homicide out there. But it's the Pastor of Muppets that comes through for the Death Shock, and he is your lead jammer. But chasing him down is Dr. Spankenstein.
Yeah, he is drafting well. Very, very fast pack, starting to slow down just a little bit. Dominated by the men in green. Only 2 yellow blockers up front as they are approaching for their scoring pass. We'll see what kind of line they take. He calls it off in order to get no points. Maybe smart.
Just the same as we would see in women's derby. Both of these teams, I know that the Harm City Homicide and the Dirty Dozen, they play with interleague practices on a weekly basis with their female counterparts. Heading up to the line right now for the Dirty Homicide is Davy Jones.
And that looks like number 111, Teen Wolf, TW, outside middle, low crotch stance.
Score still 8-2 in favor of the Death Shock.
Second whistle releases the jammers. Drafting is Teen Wolf. Already a little melee in the front of the pack. Again, the meat and the potatoes, the blockers having to do their job as these skaters are definitely very agile, which is another thing I was curious about compared to the beautiful grace of a lot of the women's skaters. But we've got a lead jammer.
We sure do. His name is Davy Jones. He's the lead jammer. We're looking at Teen Wolf has still been unable. He is stuck behind the shirt of the man himself, rolling red shirt, 1955 is his number. That's the year he was born. He is the oldest player in roller derby. And Jonathan R. called for cutting the track. Blocking out of bounds is heading off for the first penalty in the slammer.
All right, and the jam is called off by the Dirty Homicide. We'll see what kind of points they scored. They definitely got some as we are just under 25 minutes. Reverend Al, this is definitely good the way the sport has been. Again, my experience has been a lot of the leagues or games have been exhibitions and they've been mixed match and they're not really in tune with each other. I see a difference here sparking my interest.
This is a high level of roller derby right here. Coming up on the line, we have...
Well, in the yellow, we've got the Pastor of Puppets again for a second rotation, number 42.
That's Virginia Slim coming up on the line for the Dirty Homicide.
Oh.
Virginia Slim right through untouched. He is your lead jammer.
That was a beautiful move. He got the pivot looking one way and quickly moved right behind him to gain lead jammer. That was a very nice move and quite agile with those Argo socks of speed.
Bazooka Joe doing an amazing job of holding the passer Muppets back, but he was called out. Or was he? Skating around trying to get word from the official. The jam is called. That's 3 points up on the board. 4 points for the Dirty Homicide.
1 point lead coming back and forth very early, and we're already into our fifth or sixth jam. I'm not sure if it's moving pretty fast. Coming to the line here again for his second rotation, circle jerk for the Death Shock.
And Justice Feelgood Marshall, America's favorite referee, is now America's favorite male roller derby player. Yes, he's got the skates on and he's ready to go against circle jerk. We're down but one blocker on both sides.
He puts the definition in of hurting in a skirt and a jammer. He also puts a hurting on the dance floor, by the way, as he helped the announcers with DNN win the first night's after party. But it's not about that. It's about the action on the track as lead jammer being called by Justice, but he is not the jammer in the lead.
Fro Serious does an excellent job at holding back Justice. Circle jerk was able to get around the front. We do have a lead jammer, Justice Feelgood Marshall, but circle jerk's got about a quarter of a lap on him. Heading into that third turn.
Jonathan Ard up front for the men in yellow, trying to hold them back a little bit so their jammer does not have to work quite as hard. The pivot for the green as the whistle blows comes in to combat that.
Justice Feelgood Marshall wisely calling off that jam as circle jerk was about to enter the pack. That's going to keep the score at the same. A big nut for both teams on that one. Pastor of Muppets coming up on the line against Jurassic Park.
He seems to be a heavy hitter for this team. This is already at least his third rotation. He just did one right before this, rested again. These guys look really in shape and, daunting, let's say. I'm a pretty small guy. Most of these guys are pretty good size. Unlike
Pretty
the
good
bump
size.
itself you are.
The Pastor of Muppets is one of the smallest players, but he was a professional vertical inline skater for 7 years of his life. That man is comfortable with wheels under his feet.
Well, I'm glad he changed from the fruit boots to the quads, playing just like the women have to. And you can tell he's got skill as he gets lead jammer there, pulling away from the pack. But hot on his trail is the gentleman from the Dirty Homicide.
The rental skates man himself, Jurassic Park.
You're right.
He is wearing 100%
Oh, Mike.
pure rental skates that you could pick up at anybody's local. But then what he did is he turned it around. He got new trucks, got new wheels, but he'll never get rid of the boots. He says they're the best boot in the business.
That's taking it old school, looking with the high top. That is classic. Whistles being blown. They're going to do an update on the score here in just a second. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us at home on DNN. Call your friends over. This is absolutely exciting, about 9 to 9, and I expect it to be every bit as exciting as the next two bouts that we're going to see for third and second and first place.
Third place, the next bout we coming up, Boston against Charm City. Somebody's going to Nationals and someone's going
staying
home.
Oh, folks, you need to gather around, turn the big screen on, whatever it is. That's going to be a good thing. But stick around now for this. We've got Teen Wolf number 111 in the yellow for the Death Shock.
Dr. Spankenstein through the pack, and he is your lead jammer. He's been skating like a bat out of hell since the Villagers ran his monster out of the village back in the day. Nothing will slow him down. 113 volts of pure power.
Oh, and we have a skater in the green go into the audience. They look like they're fine. They don't have the crash pads here, and I'm okay with that for the most part. When the men skate, I would much rather see the crash pads as an investment, but that's a whole nother story. Meanwhile, good action, tight packs, nice rotation. Everybody staying, and surprisingly, not that many fouls.
Not many fouls. A very clean game. Probably the cleanest game we've seen so far this weekend. Will Jennison, as you said, went into the crowd. He is 6'7", 260 pounds. Don't let him land on my lap.
Right. Well, what that means is they have to be much more disciplined as they almost come in. Spank almost comes in and spanks us here at the booth. They have to be a little bit more disciplined because the men tend to hit more with their upper body. That means they're going to have more of a tendency to do that chicken wing that most girls have a problem with. And they're doing well to control their upper body and not let it wing out.
Absolutely. A lot of these guys have worked with what's called racing grips. Is they actually sew hand grips onto their shirts to teach them from opening up
Awesome,
their arms.
awesome idea.
Davy Jones coming up onto the line for the Dirty Homicide against the passer of Muppets for the Death Shot.
Who has a little bit of a false start, has to let the other men in green, in fact, are up 14-9. Dirty Homicide over the Death Shock as we have a lead. No, we don't.
Davy Jones was called off for cutting the track by the outside. Referee caught him on the first turn. That leaves the passer of Muppets out there. Not only is Lee Jammer skating unopposed, I just saw a big smile on his face.
Right, and that would be officially a power jam when the other jammer is in the box, and he had a full 1 minute and 36 seconds to go when that happened. So it's all his game. He unfortunately only has 2 men on the block, so hits like that from Zank is going to be good, but he gets off the track for a major as well.
Off the track for a major. We just talked about how the game looked really clean, and next thing you know, the slammer cage is filled up. Passer Muppets out for a 5-point grand slam, the first grand slam in National Men's Roller Derby, now televised right for you at home. If you like what you're seeing, log on to DNN, become a member of this community. It's now a community of men and women. There's another 5 up on the point for Pastor.
They tie it up, and yes, on DNN here, it's exciting. These full bouts can get a little bit interesting, and some of those southern teams will want to get together and see what they can do to compete this. As Pastor calls it off, scores 5 more points. That's 2 grand slams. Not bad.
This is the play for Pastor. He called it off before he passed Bazooka Joe. He knew that it takes 4 whistles to call the jam off. Bazooka Joe eased up, and he stepped right past him.
The rule book says rapid whistles, and sometimes they're a little less rapid than others, but
Exactly.
you get it all the way through that momentum.
A lot of these guys are in their first year of playing their sport, but they've been by this sport. Some of them 4, 5, 6 years have been involved in roller derby, and they know this game.
Whistles off again. New jammer. 4 score and 7, Abraham Drinkin in the yellow.
Feel good, Marshall. Talk about knowing the game, America's referee.
Hopefully Abe's not too beat up here in this game. He's going to have to be working with his Gotham girls tonight going up against Philly, a 1-2 matchup. What we all wanted. Oh, it's going to be so nice.
That's once they clear the blood off the track from the Charm City Boston game.
Exactly.
Because neither one of those girls want to go home with anything but an invitation to Nationals.
Yeah.
And speaking about National, the National referee himself, Justice Feelgood Marshall, is your lead jammer.
Absolutely. We have pretty much a full complement of blockers. No, we have 1 yellow gentleman in the box as Abraham Drinkin is still in front without that status. Marshall kind of backs into, knocking in the back, and he gets called off for a major. Right here by the booth, he has to skate all the way around. Penalty doesn't start till he gets his butt in the seat.
That means Abraham Drinkin's not going to be skating unopposed. He hasn't been able to make his first initial pass. He's looking to try to score some points, but what an amazing job of the Dirty Homicide at being able to hold Abraham Drinkin inside that pack.
He's got 36 seconds, and he has not made it past the pack. He goes down. He scored a couple of points. He's kind of hammering at the refs a little bit, you can see. But he gets back up. He's got a little more time to get those couple more points and release for the pack, which he does. And he gets his grand slam, so his persistent paid off. He's just not going to have enough time with 15 seconds to go to get really back to the pack to score up another point.
You're absolutely right. He was able to get in with Circle Jerk, had to run and chase his mouthpiece into the audience. He takes a seat next to Justice Feelgood Marshall. In the penalty box, Abraham Drinkin, only about 1 second left, and that jam is over. Was not able to score a final point, but that is going to make it so the Death Shot goes up 24-14 over the Dirty Homicide.
You know what? And some camaraderie there. He made an effort. He almost got back to the back and made a point. As he was rolling in, one of the players on the green team, put an arm around him and said, "Good jam." It's just like the women's derby. When the whistles are off, it's friends, it's hanging out, it's all good competition, talk derby all day. But when the whistles are on, it's on. I love it.
And speaking about on, Jonathan R. is known as the best jammer in men's roller derby, and he's coming up on the line right now, skating unopposed.
Right, and just as he did, they got a illegal procedure with an extra player who had to be called off the track, so they are down to 2 blockers against 3 for the opposing team. It is going to be a little bit difficult for Jonathan R. And he makes through. He takes off a bump, and he still passes through. Wow,
He
good
just got through
athlete.
Gearhead, Sin Diesel, and Bazooka Joe for his first pass. Justice Feelgood Marshall is back on the track and breathing right down his back.
He came out with wheels of flaming fire and a skirt ablazing. He is so well loved here as a part of the DNN family, who we couldn't have Derby where it is without DNN. As the jam gets called off by Jonathan Art, DNN, we're glad to be here calling for him.
DNN bringing not only roller derby to your home, but now bringing men's flat track roller derby to your home. Please, if you like what you see and you're enjoying what you're watching this weekend, go to our sponsors. Go to 5 on 5 Magazine. Go to Fast Girl Skates. Go to Wicked Skatewear and
Absolutely.
say thank you for sponsoring DNN. And because of that, we're going to be supporting you. Go to these companies and tell them that you want Derby-owned businesses, Derby-owned company. Let's keep control of the sport that we love best, and let's do it through DNN.
Absolutely. Back to the action on the track. The pasture one more time for at least his fifth or sixth rotation as Jammer. Cutting through the inside, making a zig out. Back in, goes down to a knee, gets up quickly. You're right, I can tell his skills for being an inliner, and he gets lead, Jammer.
Well, Scape Reed almost took the head off of Jurassic Park on turn number 2. Knocked him around like he was a piece of a government work mule over there. Just beat him down and left him standing. Meanwhile, the passer Muppets is about to enter into a scoring pass.
Yeah, he's wincing a little bit coming around as they are relying heavily on him against a little bit of wall in the middle of the pack. Pasture getting beat up quite a bit. Meanwhile, Speeding coming close to the pack. Up, gets called off before he could get some points in.
One thing I'm noticing that is different from the women's derby, other than the obvious, is the fact that these guys, it looks like the smallest guy, it's probably Pastor Muppets, looks like he weighs about 150, I'd say about 175 pounds. The biggest guy, we're looking at like guys like Rolling Red Shirt and Will Jettison, probably in the 250, 260 range. That's a lot of weight coming at you on these turns, and when those hits happen, they look like they've been pretty solid all night.
Absolutely. A lot of these guys are athletes, referees, coaches. They're involved. They're pretty athletic for sure, and taking it out on each other here.
Davy Jones and Teen Wolf both inside the packs. Teen Wolf gets through first, but he stepped out of bounds. Oh no, a track cut, and he is not going to be your lead jammer. Davy Jones trying to do what he can to get through the pack.
One of the blockers with the green tights joins yet another one. There are two of them in the box. So we've got a full complement in the green and only 3 players on the track for the yellow, as Teen Wolf is making nice cuts, avoiding a pretty big hit.
Grober Cleavage. A man with a name I love, a helmet I love, and a size I wouldn't mess with.
Yeah, absolutely. 4 more points for number 111, taking you up to 32-17 over the Dirty Homicide. Jam number 13, 55 seconds left in the jam, 11 minutes in the period first.
He just got answered by 4 points by Davy Jones. Teen Wolf now getting back into the pack, but he gets called out, leaving Davy Jones now going to be out there for the next 41 seconds, skating unopposed. Davy Jones, known as one of the faster men's skaters out there. Once he gets a breakaway, he is gone, and we're about to see that as he goes one-on-one with Circle Jerk and Big T-Stop.
T-Stop doing a damaging control up front and pivot, and then finally he releases by, but not before he could score a grand slam. Jam number 13 happens to be bad luck for these Death Shocks right now, as their lead is shrunk to 32-26 with still a few seconds left.
That's it, Death Shock at 32. Dirty Homicide at 26 with 10 minutes and 13 seconds left. Huge hit right there. Davy Jones goes down. T-Stop
went down and actually went down and pushed him down with his forearm and then got up. So he's getting a little bit of bat on the hand for that call, but I don't see him going to the, oh yes.
Yeah, he is in the slammer. He just slouched down after a hit like that. And after a major hit like that.
It was kind of like in football where the guys knock and take the players down, and when they're getting up, they kind of push and hold the guy down, and sometimes it's questionable. Basically did the same thing. So,
absolutely.
And Now they're down a jammer, unopposed on the line.
A little extra effort, we call that, but Dr. Spankenstein coming off the line for the Dirty Homicide as they are down by 8 points, 26-34 against Death Shock. 9 minutes and 54 seconds left. Up in the front, that's Jonathan R. knocking him around, trying to hold the front line.
Skating backwards, moving back around, definitely very athletic. His 3 points are scored by Dirty Homicide. The pack's starting to slow down to get him closer back. They're sandwiched in, basically, the yellow with the green team as they recycle, and now we've got both jammers back on the track. Teen Wolf in.
Dr. Spankenstein goes into the corner. Jonathan R. breaks him down.
He did a stop, drop, and call off the jam, almost here into the announcer's table. It was nice. The referees couldn't see it, but finally got it done. They're going to start the line back up as they have brought it within 3 points with 9 minutes left. This is good derby, ladies
We're
and gentlemen.
only 20 minutes into it. We got Davy Jones coming up there for the Dirty Homicide. The Pastor Muppets up there for the Death Shock. 34-31 in favor of the Death Shock. 8 minutes and 53 seconds left. Holy cow, ladies and gentlemen, hang on to your helmet. We got a lot of derby going on here.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, once again, we are so glad that you're listening to us online. Unfortunately, you can't be here in beautiful, historic Dorton Arena. This is an amazing venue, and to have this full bout with men's derby here is a great thing as well.
The Pastor Muppets just called off for cutting the track. He's heading off to the penalty box. We got Jurassic Park for the Dirty Homicide also heading off. Davy Jones going to be out there skating unopposed with 1 minute and 22 seconds left. And it's still to make his initial pass.
We've got a full bench pretty much there in the penalty box for the team in yellow, Death Shock, as there is only one player in the box for the Dirty Homicide. Jones with a good scoring opportunity, and it looks like somebody gets taken off the track.
That is Vader has been ejected. I'm not sure if he was ejected from the game or if he's out for the period. We will get word from the referees as soon as we find out.
We'll see if we can get a clarification of that. Maybe just a not an expulsion, but an ejection.
Ejection for the half of the game.
Yeah, the first bout we had 3 girls get sent off for the period. Wasn't a good thing. And already in the men's, we've got another gentleman. I wonder what he did.
Like we say, they all love each other at the after party.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
You put them on a track about 200 feet long, and they're ready to kill each other.
Right, absolutely. 7 minutes left, 34-31. Barely holding on is Death Shock as there is a jammer takeout. Jones in turn number 4, getting up a little bit slowly as the yellow bench penalty has cleared, and we've got the pastor. The whistle was blown.
Well, but the Death Shock was able to hold Davy Jones down. They were at its full power jam. They had only 2 blockers on the box, no jammer, and they were able to hold the Dirty Homicide back and not score a point. Amazing, amazing ability.
But there we are, 1 point difference, just under 6 minutes and 30 seconds to go.
Jonathan R. looking to call a timeout. It hasn't been called yet. That's why I love DNN. We can just call it as we see it, not how it happens. Man, so far in this timeout, what do you think about men's roller derby, Chick Keith?
I think I am very impressed, again, from what I've seen, the mixed match of teams, and now we're seeing some really fluent, hard-hitting, but not trying to destroy each other, because, again, they're playing by the rules, and that's pretty cool, you know? Again, it's not as graceful, but you take it for what it is. It's hard, it's good skills, fast skating, and surprisingly, a lot of really good lateral maneuvering by these guys that you see kind of like in the women's sport.
Absolutely. This game is played by 4.0. A skater by the name of Bazooka Joe used to come down to Providence and help us out with our bouts.
Right.
Wanted to start a girls' league out in Pioneer Valley, and then said to himself, hell, I don't need to just start a girls' league. I'm going to start a girls' league and a men's league. He just started the first derby league. They got men and women from all around the area. They're a very competitive, I'd say third-tier kind of team is the Pioneer Valley women. The men's team, one of the most dominant teams now in men's derby. Bazooka Joe gave a speech this year at RollerCon basically bringing in men's roller derby into the full community. The girls there love them. There is probably still a few girls out there that might say to themselves, we're not really too thrilled with it. They're not really too happy, but they're not here today. All I hear is cheers from our females in attendance.
It can be for everybody. It's about the women, but right now it's back to the action. We've got number 6, Jonathan.
And that is Slim, Virginia Slim, heading out for the Dirty Homicide. Huge hit by Spankenstein, takes him to the outside, not allowing him to get lead jammer status as he pushes him to the outside of the track. Virginia Slim, though, still not able to get through the pass as he is looking at Abe Drinking and Teen Wolf as his front line.
And we've got the jammer called out for cutting the track. Go take a seat.
That jammer, Virginia Slim, heading off, sitting in the box.
Meanwhile, Jonathan R. has got an opportunity to pull away with 5 minutes and 30 seconds to go. Men are flailing all over the track, falling big, falling small. Jonathan R. gets back in quickly because he had the man out of play and scores 3 more points. It's a pretty low-scoring, heavy-hitting, accordion-type game comparatively to what we've been seeing a lot in this tournament.
You know, I think a lot of people have seen a lot of blowouts this weekend, and this is kind of a refreshing event tonight as we are seeing for the first time a 4-point game this close to the second period.
And you know what's really cool? We've got people sitting all around the track, a nice crowd. We've got Pearl Jammer for Connecticut sitting there cheering on, telling them when to stop, when to start, slow down and all that. That girl had an amazing game. I got to call her pulling 11 grand slams in about a 10 jam different period. And it was really awesome. And she is just cheering on Jonathan R. as he scores a grand slam, as I spoke of a minute ago.
Absolutely, Jonathan R. second grand slam of this period as he has now brought the score 47-33 in favor of the Death Shot with 4 minutes left. And you are right, there are a lot of girls out there that love men's derby. Like I said, a lot of these guys practice, play, support the women's leagues. And now it's time for these women's leagues to step up and say, you know what, we know you love refereeing, and if you want to skate, go ahead.
Well, a lot of you who know me out there know I don't know math. It's now 51-33. It was 55-33. Quite a jam for him with 4 minutes to go. You know, we were talking about just a little bit earlier. You know, I think men's derby and why it can be accepted because one of the trends is that we are trying to grow this throughout the community. Being lucky and being at the Texas Roller Girls, you know, we've got the Austin Derby Brats, we've got the Rec League, and we've got the Women's League. Now, I don't know if you're going to see men's league in Austin anytime soon, but the fact that what you're doing is you're getting the entire family involved in one way or another, it's going to continue to perpetuate what we're doing and the beauty of what this sport is and why it is just rapidly growing around the world.
Absolutely, it is growing. It's growing fast. We get a timeout now called by the Dirty Homicide. And as this place grows, as the sport grows, more people are going to need to buy things for the sport. Like they'll need to go to Sin City Skates or Wicked Skatewear, Fast Girl Skates, some of our sponsors here at DNN, and pick up more gear. Keep the money in the community. Let's start our own. Let's start our own stimulus package. Buy from Derby, play Derby, rock Derby out. Let's get back to live action.
Well, not the live action, but we've got Randy with an eye, Pam, the Goat Fairy, and Caesar as a special wranglers, if you will, for Derby here. It's been a beautiful thing.
Two ugliest women on the East Coast.
Thank you, Fairy Brutal, for providing the outfit. Go shop at her store
I
later.
hope they burn those shorts after.
And here we go, back to the action of the track as Marshall gets knocked out early by the jammer, which would be...
Circle jerk.
Yes.
For the shock exchange, knocks Marshall out earlier and gets lead jammer status.
Yeah, big props to him. He just got off of coaching his girls, a.k.a. Crotchless, the coach for the Connecticut girls. The Stanford Sabotage won a game today to come out at least with one win. That was nice. And he splits through the pack with a jump, calling it off, scoring 4 points. That was a very nice move.
Beautiful move. He was able to actually be up. I think he had about a 1 foot vertical leap off those skates. You look at the skates he's wearing. These guys do everything the same as the girls. A lot of them get the pushers on the inside and the runners on the outside. They play on the same tracks. They do so many of the same things that we see done. Now we got a little jammer line action.
Jockeying for position, or is it a little bit of dance-off?
They've been drinking in Jurassic
Yeah.
Park.
They weren't getting it on the dance floor. They were really trying to jockey for position. Being drafted is Abe Lincoln as he takes an outside line and a nice whip with the help. Gets called lead jammer. Very nice effort around the outside,
Beautiful effort, but he loses the road race to Rental Skates boy himself. Jurassic Park, you are not going to beat that kid in a straight race, and that's just the bottom line.
So Abe is serious about his derby. He bashes himself on the helmet for allowing that gentleman to get in front of him. There, all the effort he had to get the beautiful whip outside to get lead jammer status nixed. He had to call it off. And you're not seeing them. A lot of teams stick with their rotations. If you don't get it, you got to go sit and think about it instead of let's put you right back on the line, try again. No. Next time you'll think when you make that choice. I think that's kind of smart coaching.
Keep that short jammer rotation. Let them keep continuing and doing what they do best. Dr. Spankenstein and Circle Jerk both coming off the line, and Circle Jerk's out there every other jam right now.
Yeah, that's right. Circle Jerk is bringing the damage, not the crackers, as he makes his way around, only getting past Justice Marshall. Feel good and makes a sweep inside for lead jammer.
Putting his arms up in the air, looking for a love. He's lead jammer. Dr. Spankenstein now through the back, but just a little bit too late. As Circle Jerk now looking back over his head. I know he knows where Spankenstein is. This is the man that coaches the team. So if there's anything he knows, that's strategy. He's coaching a team that's come to regionals. So you're talking about some of the best teams. Gets through, skates past Justice, calls off the jump.
And Justice, a very, very smart derby player, and he just beat him at Justice, something he probably didn't know and he probably couldn't help. He had him on the inside seal. He just squeezed in and just pushed his way with momentum around the turn, and Justice couldn't do anything about it. Probably knew that he had to, but he couldn't. Very smart coaching maneuver on the track in action.
Jurassic Park is going right back to the jammer line again against the pastor of Muppets. Just like women's derby, Jonathan R. over there is trying to pull a penalty. Guess I bet we'll be seeing him on the jammer line real soon.
Right, and that's a smart move. Earlier today, I've seen a couple of times as we get lead jammer there for the men in green.
Jurassic Park untouched. Like I said, when that guy decides he's going to skate fast, watch out. He took the outside line and outskated the entire team.
Right. Yeah, a lot of those teams taking those minors because you really don't want your jammer, as you well know, listening out there, experienced derby people, on the line with 3 minors. So you got to keep that rotation flowing and you take the sacrifice. Men doing the same strategy, smart thing. Nice move using his shoulder to get out in front of the pivot. Oh, it's a late takedown. I'm guessing that he's going to be called off. I can't see.
He calls the jam from the floor, and he was not happy about that
Yeah,
shoulder.
he didn't get called off, and it looked like it was a little bit late on the flail past the center line of the body, which also would be the same with the rules, but didn't get called for it, I suppose.
Just like with the women, sometimes the referees miss a little edge here or there. We got 59 points for the Death Shock, 37 points for the Dirty Homicide, and we are at intermission. And holy cow, folks.
Man, it's exactly like the little characters on the thing. It is a gunfight. That is a little wild salmon and Indian. It is a gunfight out there between these two teams, the Death Shock and the Dirty Homicide. Death Shock coming out strong, getting punched in the mouth a little bit, and then coming back and pulling away with a pretty good difference going into intermission. Oh, and look at who's smiling at us. It's the beautiful Sheezer.
It's a beautiful Caesar
You can
smiling.
see, ladies and
Look, let's see if
gentlemen.
we get her up here. She's a little shy. She's a little shy. Give her some
Maybe
room.
she'll kind of join us.
Give her some room. She's a little shy, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Little
Miss
Caesar.
Caesar.
Little Caesar, you've been watching and you love Murby so much. What do you think so far?
Great game, evenly fought. It's going to be a battle to the end. We like being cheerleaders. See ya.
Yay, all right.
All right, remind me not to drink too many beers next to her or him tonight. Because that could be
Or
a
maybe
scary
you want to
situation.
because the focus will be put on him, her, and you can be off doing whatever it is. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for watching and supporting DNN. Thank you to them for what they do, and thank you for supporting them, just like helping getting them here, giving some donations, making sure that you can have this at home. If you can't afford to get there, you can see all of the major tournaments week after week, and then again in November, care of DNN.
You know, I always used to turn on public broadcasting and get annoyed when they asked for money all the time. But now I get it. See, I didn't care about anything
Right.
on PBS. I care about roller derby. I know that DNN just had a beautiful pledge drive, and because of you people at home, they met the amount that they were looking for and then surpassed it. But you know what? Let's not stop there. If you like what you're watching today, let's keep that drive going, because the more you are for them, the more you can give them. Even if you can't afford to give money, log on and become a member of DNN. That will have sponsors look at us and say, wow, they have 50,000 people on this group. We're going to throw some tags up. There's ways around this. There's ways that we can make Derby grow. Right now, 2 years ago, you would never have thought Derby in your living room.
No, absolutely. And just for all the hard work that the WFTDA is doing, because DNN is literally a partner. I was talking to some people, and what they're doing and developing here at DNN for women's roller derby is just as important as what women's roller derby is doing for them. And now we get to see it all over the place live if you can't make it there. And it's good stuff.
And speaking of which, good stuff. Move aside. Nobody wants to look at you.
No, absolutely
We got
not.
Bob Noxious and Blackie here. We're going to turn the mics over to them.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Men's Derby, a lot of fun to watch, no question about that.
Not pretty, but fun.
It's not beautiful,
Right.
but it's fun. Bob Noxious reporting here with DNN. I've got Blackie with me from the Atlanta Roller Girls. Both of us very excited because we're both going to have a role in these Southern Smackdown.
Southern Fried Smackdown
There we
coming
go.
up 2 weeks.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about the tournament? We know that it's going to start. Go ahead, give us the dates first.
It's in 2 weeks on September 25th through September 27th, the top 10 teams in the South Central region.
And let's see the rundown of that. We've got Texas is at number one.
Texas, Kansas City, Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, woo! Nashville.
We've got Memphis in there.
Memphis
No
came in,
Coast.
just made it. No Coast is in there. West Texas, Tampa is going to be a
That's
good,
right. And I think we got them all.
Yeah.
You're going to want to come down and see that. Obviously, Texas on a really big tear this
Yes,
year.
that's right.
I think the story for Kansas City is going to continue to be them trying to kind of climb their way back into the Nationals. It looks like they've got a team that might be able to do it.
Right.
And quite honestly, I think all of us are really excited about, nothing's ever a lock. But that third slot is a dogfight, isn't it?
I think you're right. I think you're seeing that here in the Eastern Regional Tournament. I think you're going to see that in the South Central Tournament.
Yeah,
as
I
well.
think so too. In fact, I think maybe in the South more than anywhere else, nearly every team playing is vying for a shot to get in.
That's right.
That's
Tooth
how
and
tight
nail,
it's going to
tooth and
be.
nail.
And
Yes.
and of course, Atlanta, a league that has been around. I think sometimes people forget Atlanta's been around for a long time.
Right, we're one of
haven't
the
you?
founding leagues for WFTDA. We've been around, our first game was July 2005. We've had some bumps and bruises, but we're a strong team. I love Atlanta, obviously. But we'd like to put on a good show, and we'd like to put on a great tournament. So hopefully people can make it down there. And it's not that far from Raleigh, so if you can
right.
make it here, you can definitely make it there.
Well, I know I love Atlanta too. I think I've known a handful of the girls there since the very first Dust Devil. I'm pleased to be down there announcing Chip Queso, who's here, Rocker Boy, who's here.
Right.
They're making the trip. We're not going to miss any of the excitement. And I know how hectic things must be right now.
We are down to the wire. We are, putting the finishing touches, dotting I's, crossing T's, making sure everything's covered. And hopefully the weather will be great. It won't be piping hot, and we'll just have a good time, hopefully.
Wait a second. Nobody said anything to me about piping hot.
Yeah, it gets really steamy down there, on and off the track.
In Madison, I'm not sure it's either. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm very much looking forward to the trip down there. I want to thank Blackie. I want to thank the Atlanta Roller Girls. I personally want to
Absolutely.
thank Brown Paper Tickets, who sent me here, going to help me out on the trip to Atlanta and the Nationals this year. And, well, you and I are going to see each other in 2 weeks. No
That's
question.
right, you are. And hopefully you'll see Atlanta at Nationals. Woo!
And we'll see you there in 2 weeks. Bob Noxious, Blackie from the Atlanta Roller Girls. Enjoy the rest of the Eastern Regional.
Are we still on? Ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Almighty back here. We got about 2 minutes left. Right now, we are looking at an amazing, amazing first introduction to the world at a regional style tournament of men's roller derby as the Death Shock is up 59 points to the Dirty Homicides 37. And wow, right now I know a lot of people that weren't really sure about men's roller derby when this bout started, but I've been listening to our DNN bloggers behind us and they're getting some good responses from the world. I hope you're at home watching this on a big plasma TV, drinking yourself some PBR, because I know PBR goes everywhere roller derby goes. Maybe pick up your 5-on-5 magazine, and I believe they actually have had some articles on men's roller derby. The Eastern Regionals is just insane, and I'm looking at a very, very sexy Dirty Marty right now. And excuse me, America, but that just throws a man off. But supporting sponsors, once again, thank you, DNN, for bringing us in-home, on your computer, at work. We can watch roller derby, live roller derby. We watch the broadcast from the back, and I seem to have grown a second head. Oh, no, that's Chip Queso joining me back on the big stage.
I had to go take care of a few things, and now we're back to men's derby. I don't know what you were talking about, but we're glad to be here. We're glad that everybody is out there watching and not just walking away. We walked and stopped for a minute on women's derby. We have beautiful things coming up, and now we're concentrating on this. And it is good derby. Hard-hitting, fast action here on DNN.
They do it by the WFTDA rules. They don't hold anything back, and you're right, tonight. Wow, we have two bouts coming up that are basically going to determine the three teams going to nationals. The first bout, Charm City versus Boston, the bloodbath of the East. That's what I think that's going to be called by the time it's over.
Loser goes home, and that's the end of it. It's going to be maybe some tears because both these teams are up and coming. They've really fought for it. It's going to be beautiful. And then, of course, again, the matchup of matchups in the East, Philly and Gotham. It is going to be a amazing thing. Back to the action on the track.
Justice Feelgood Marshall is out there for the Homicide. We got Circle Jerk going to be out there for Death Shock. Score 59 to 37, and both our jammers are off the line.
Jam 21, period number 2, 30 full more minutes of this as Justice stays on his feet for a nice move to get lead jammer, but quickly out front and now doing the defensive jammer is Circle Jerk number 19.
Everything you see in women's derby, you're going to be seeing here right now. Circle Jerk trying to draw a penalty off of Justice Feelgood Marshall, trying to get a hit, trying to get a back block, trying to get a trip, trying to get something that holds him back, and Justice Feelgood Marshall looks like he is getting frustrated with this one-on-one. But Justice Feelgood Marshall takes the outside lane and wins that battle right there.
Absolutely. A very agile skater. He always was a great ref. Now pretty much full-time on DNN. Shows his skills here in men's derby. It's also why he's a crowd favorite, as he is taking advantage of that skill, calling it off just before Circle Jerk could get in, and he scores no points, and Justice gets 2. Job done.
2-0 will win a derby bout every day if you could do that often. Coming up now on the line, the speed skater himself against Rental Man. We got Jurassic Park up against Jonathan R. And these two play each other often. They are known to go at each other.
And they are slender, athletic gentlemen. It's basically this. It's ponytail and rental skates versus no ponytail and
spandex and speed.
Yeah, spandex and speed. There you go. That's a better way of describing it.
And I do have to say the one difference between men and women's derby is the girls do look a little bit better in their spandex.
That's definitely, I didn't know you were looking. Both jammers being caught as Abe Lincoln uses his shirt as a whipping device for Jonathan R., but he cannot get around the outside quick enough as he is taunting the now lead jammer in green.
Jurassic Park. What a road race this is. Two of the fastest men in roller derby going at each other. Jurassic Park, beautiful shoulder on the inside. Passes the player. We got points up for both sides, I believe.
And here they go. They're showing on the screen some of the advertisers. Whip It. Of course, we are all very excited about that. Austin has ties to Whip It, not to mention, obviously, the roller derby revolution. I know that we have some girls there right now. The Texecutioners watching, hopefully the men's derby. I know they're watching everything else. Giving a shout out to them. And there's leagues around the country here looking on DNN in Dorton Arena to see what we have, and then they're preparing for what they have.
Exactly. Teams are going to nationals, and this is a great way to scout out your team. Looking about scout-outs right now. We got Zach Sabbath and Dr. Spankenstein both in there, but Dr. Spankenstein is through, and he is your lead jammer.
Really bobbing and weaving is the Zach in the yellow, but he wasn't able to get through first. He is still being held up there in the front of the pack as they are really doing very well about rotating the blocker positions in order to re-engage and get their jammer out, which is what they do.
Zach Sabbath was able to get through the pack, and he's climbing up now. Dr. Spankenstein, avoiding a huge hit by T-Stop, was able to get inside now. He's going to be looking over his shoulder to know when to call off that jam. Breaks that final player, goes in upside down, head over heels, calling off the jam.
That was an athletic move in air as he knew he was sliding. Started calling it right when he hit the apex of the turn there, and then flies in. Nice move. This is exciting.
Talk
stuff,
about pack awareness and knowing what you're doing on roller derby.
Pack
Speaking of
awareness.
knowing what you're doing, we are back up once again to Jurassic Park, heading up against Teen Wolf.
Howling at the track, a very inside position. Meanwhile, outside, geometry works from outside to inside, apparently. Then the jammers get caught up just a little bit. Already.
Teen Wolf goes down in the back corner, Jurassic Park now, looking at the big, huge back of Aber Drinkin, but gets past him. He is your lead jammer. Score 60-42 with 25 minutes left of the second period. Jurassic Park now on a full-out sprint, trying to get to the back of the pack as he looks over his shoulder, though. Sees Teen Wolf about a half a track behind him.
The men in Army Green looking to bring this score in to make it a little bit more palatable. I expect them to do so as it has been close, not depictive of the little bit of a score advancement by the Death Shock. And we'll see if this is a momentum swing or not as the jam gets called off and there's a timeout being taken, it looks like, by Dirty Homicide. Maybe not. I thought he called for a timeout coming out, but maybe that's not the case.
That was 4 points up onto the board for the Dirty Homicide. Score now, Death Shock is 60, Dirty Homicide 44. We got Circle Jerk on the line for the Death Shock. We got Virginia Slim out there for the Dirty Homicide, and they're about to take off the line.
And here we go, and Circle Jerk attempts to get a jammer out of lead jammer potential by knocking him in the inside lane, and he takes a quick inside. Okay, here we go. Burst whistle's blown, and Circle Jerk makes lead jammer before he gets 3/4 of the way down. Good speed, good pack awareness by his teammates.
Anybody out there that says that the skill level of men's derby isn't up there with the skill level of women's derby, I hope you're watching right now. Player for player, these guys are amazing. I've seen some great skating here today by our men. Let's say, as Circle Jerk calls that off with 4 points, it's going to bring the Shock Exchange, the Death Shock, up to 64 points, 20-point lead over the Dirty Homicide at 44.
Looks like maybe their strategy there is they are getting the lead jammer and calling it off quickly. A great strategy invented early on in women's roller derby that just about a lot of the top teams have taken on. The men needing to do the same, hoping that maybe they can take this momentum swing with only a 20-point difference and maybe just ticky-tack start to pull away again.
Exactly. Jonathan R. for the Death Shock. That's Jurassic Park for the Dirty Homicide off the line. Remember the ponytail versus spandex. They've been going at each other all night long.
That's right. And out front quickly is Jonathan R. 26th jam. Less than 15 seconds to get through his pack to gain lead jammer. He's got a lot of time to work with as we are approaching 23 minutes in period number 2.
20 points, as we've seen it all weekend long, is far from a win in roller derby, and it's far from over with 23 minutes left on the board. Both skaters deep inside their packs now. Jonathan R. looked back. He scored what I believe was 2 points and called off that jam to Homicide 0. So now that's 2 jams in a row 2 points per jam. Nutting for the Dirty Homicide. And all you got to do is keep doing that, and you're going to win by a lot of points at the end.
Well, you know, in the end, 2 points here, 2 points there, it doesn't feel or sound like a lot, but what you start to do is you start to beat the mentality, because if they do it enough times in a row, your team naturally kind of hits that low point going, gosh, how are we going to get out of that? They've got to then, they being the Dirty Homicide, have to turn it around and say, wait a minute, we had momentum, let's swing it back. We're going to see if we can do it here with the jammer for the Dirty Homicide. That is who, Al?
Zach Sabbath off the line, and he is your lead jammer. Virginia Slim at the back of the pack for the Dirty Homicide.
Didn't get the advantage that they were hoping for, so once again, 3 jams in a row by Mr. Zach, number 4, making lead jammer. That momentum back in control by the Death Shock.
Team Wolf just taking a fall, and you saw it, just like women. Fall small, get up quick. Virginia Slim out there doing what he can for the Dirty Homicide.
Oh, great
but
move.
4 points up for Zach Sabbath.
And exactly what we were talking about, strategy. They can't hear us out there. They don't know that we're going, hey, you're going to get lead jammered. You're going to get your points. You're going to call it off. That's what they're doing. I'm glad we talked about it, because it's happening in action. Smart play by the men in yellow and black.
Looks like we get a timeout, and the 2 ugliest women in America contest is on the stage. Randina, the goat girl.
Randy Pam, the goat fairy, wearing a beautiful blue wig, blue sunglasses, a bustier, and striped socks. And there we have Sheezer in a wonderful red bustier, bow in her hair, and also striped socks and green leotards. Don't you want to go kiss them?
Sheezer reminds me of a Soviet athlete. We're back in the 80s before they started drug testing, somewhere along the lines of the weightlifting competitions.
Or I am doing shot put. But good stuff, fun stuff here at Dorton Arena, historic Dorton Arena. Next weekend, Minnesota, St. Paul area. Give a shout out to them. They have the best, biggest roller derby venue in the country, getting upwards of 4,000 people. If you can make your way up there, that's going to be a beautiful thing. Some great contentions up there with Windy City, Detroit, Grand Raggedy, and on and on. There's a lot of other teams. Of course, Madison.
You know, in baseball, they talk about October. I haven't seen baseball in October in about 4 years, because that's when I got involved in roller derby. And October is regionals time. This is our playoffs. Speaking about playing off, Circle Jerk is going to be playing off for the Death Shock against Jurassic Park for the Dirty Homicide.
And
huge blocking by the pastor of Muppets, and they've been drinking on Jurassic Park, able to pull him to the outside. He did get through the pack, but he is not your lead jammer, because they pushed him out of bounds.
That is correct, but he is the jammer in the lead. Meanwhile, Circle Jerk trying to make it through. There's no pack, so they basically have to let him through with 4 blockers in green up front and only 2 on the track. Abe Drinkin being one of those is the pivot. As the whistle gets blown, they're going to go ahead and take control as they score a couple more points.
Circle Jerk already looking at the clock and saying, you know what, I'm going to take a few more seconds to call it. We're up by, it's not a lot. It's only 26 points. However, when you're up by points, the clock is in your favor. Let it run down a little bit. That's something, that's one of the first players I've seen today that looked at the clock, took his time to call off that jam before the other jammer entered the pack.
Exactly, and here's what I'm talking about. It's been about 4 or 5 jams where the men in yellow have been in control, breaking them down a little bit. And now you put Jonathan R. against the Agile Justice, but they are beating them up. A wall of green that he squeezes through. Oh, amazing work by Jonathan.
Points in his face.
So here's what we saw, is they were taunting him all the way down the line. Jonathan R. was going to try to cut it off, quickly get the points, and them score nothing. But he was drafting so well, he jumped in and ended up getting 1 more point than Jonathan scored. Smart,
Boom.
Mr. Marshall Fieldgood.
You want to know about roller derby? Ask a former ref. He's seen everything that you can do and that you can't do. He learned how to do it well, and he did it well right there. Speaking of doing it well, we got Davy Jones coming off the line for the Dirty Homicide, and Zach Sabbath for the Shock.
Davy Jones, Zach getting pushed to the outside and going down is Davy Jones. Zach up in front, slightly in the back of the pack is Jones as we approach the back stretch here at Dorton Arena.
Here we are, turn number 3. Beautiful hit. Oh, huge hit on Davy Jones by number 14, Marlon Brando. Looking young and handsome again.
Yeah, he was more like, I'm Marlon Brando, you hit the floor, I'm going to go have a cocktail after this.
Davy Jones gets through finally, and he's your lead jammer.
3 men on the track in yellow, one of them being the jammer, Zach, number 4, not able to get through. A little bit of stiff defense turnaround here. However, as I was saying it, he does get through finally.
Yep.
And you can see what we do with about a minute left on the jam and just over 18 minutes in the period number 2.
Score 73-48. Huge hit on Davy Jones as he is on his back. Looks like he's hurt. Getting up very, very slowly as he called that jam off.
Yeah, he gets up wincing.
That looks like a tailbone shuggle to me.
Yeah, he's holding the small, or as I call it down in Texas, the smalt, not correctly, but of his back, in pain just a little bit. But he's okay. These guys are tough, especially if you're wearing camo and army green. You have to be tough. Meanwhile, the men in yellow and black accents, if you will, the Death Shock in control, 73-48. 18 minutes to go as we have a timeout. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here on DNN. Join DNN throughout the week, updating some of the information about the scores and the upcoming bouts. Again, next week is St. Paul, Minnesota. After that, we've got Atlanta, Georgia.
You know what? Just shut your cable TV off because you're not going to need it until after Nationals because we're bringing roller derby into your house every weekend for the next month.
Yeah, but if you could be here, by the way, we do have a live PA call in this big, beautiful arena. We've got Katie Caustic, we've got Dirty Mario, we've got Eddie Spaghetti on the live house call. It's a wonderful thing, I'm sure, for the audience as we concentrate here on DNN. The people in North Carolina have done a fabulous freaking job here. It is smooth. It is running well. Big thanks to all the production here. $3 Bill watching us, not listening on his headphones right now. Great job to all of them. Thank you, North Kakalaki.
Back to the action at hand. We got Dr. Spankenstein coming off the line.
Against Circle Jerk, the coach also for Connecticut. Getting through on the outside quickly, getting lead jammer. Round the outside, round the outside.
I believe that we have a penalty.
On Abe Drinking.
Back block, yeah, out of bounds blocking. Heading off to the penalty box. Circle Jerk is your lead jammer, but chasing him like an angry monster is Spankenstein.
Absolutely. Great action. Lots of time left. 17 minutes and 20 seconds left as the jam gets called. 2 points for the men in yellow as opposed to 0 for green. Still
Once again,
uphill battle.
This game is going so fast right now. They're only able to get 2 points at a time as they look over their shoulder, and the other jammer, the opposing jammer, is right in your face.
The pastor of puppets, number 42, lining up on the outside.
And we gotta give big credit right now. The pastor of Muppets against Bazooka Joe, who I will say this right, he is the man that brought men's roller derby back to the world, back to conception.
And the pastor has to allow the other gentleman, again, gentlemanly by because he made a false start. But he is in advantage here as he's going the outside line, makes a quick cut, and then goes down there in turn number 1.
And Pearl Jammer, one of the big fans of men's roller derby, just got kicked in the face by the back of a skate, but laughed it off.
She is one tough girl, amazing skater.
Meanwhile, on the track, Bazooka Joe is your lead jammer. Pastor of Muppets being held back very well.
All right, let's see. 16 minutes to go. They're in advantage of a lead jammer. If I'm a coach, this is where you tell your guys, this is it. We need to make that turnaround. We've got to go because if it gets too close, these guys are too tough to really come back quickly like you see with the girls. You're not going to get a 20-point jam or a 6 Grand Slam jam like we saw on the first freaking day here.
It's not happening here. Every one of these jams, I think the biggest jam we saw tonight was 10 points by Dr. Spankenstein earlier on. We are not getting big jam, and the pastor of Muppets would make Metallica proud right now as he is just stalking G.I. Joe, known as Bazooka Joe.
Bazooka Joe trying to give him a little bit of whiplash, ride the lightning. 53-75 in favor of the Death Shock. 15 minutes and 20 seconds to go here in Dorton Arena.
I want to talk about a few of our other skaters. We got Gearhead out there. We got Cleveland Gruber out there. We got Skate Breed. I love that name, Skate Breed.
Great names.
These guys are out there, but right now on the line, Teen Wolf is out there for the Death Shock against Justice Feel Good Marshall.
That's right. He is, like we said, one of the mainstays here at DNN, doing great things. He always has great reviews and predictions and discussions about it. And he's skating with a smile on as he works the outside, not quite 20 feet. But he does get cleared lead jammer before he passed the hip, so I guess in fact the 20-foot rule and the pivot gets called off.
Marlon Brando called for not letting him go. Skate Breed had put his hands up. Marlon Brando gave another little shock to him. Justice Feelgood Marshall now in lead jammer position, but sneaking up really quick behind him is Teen Wolf.
You can see him huffing and puffing just a little bit. He's trying to blow around the track, but it's been a long, hard-fought bout, and still about 14 minutes to go. It's just a feel-good Marshall, a leisurely inside-outside cut to call off the jam. It's Sunday. Let's start this over again, gentlemen.
That is 2 points up in the sky now for the Homicide. 57 for the Dirty Homicide. 77 for the Death Shock.
20 points is not
13.
Not difficult to get if they can just swing it here.
We have 13 minutes left, man. We have two jams can change this game. And speaking about changing this game, Jonathan R. is up there to try to make sure it doesn't change for the Death Shock. Virginia Slim, one of the hardest working men in roller derby, is out there for the Dirty Homicide, and they're both off the line.
Right, good defense in the pack by the men in green, pushing Jonathan outside to give an advantage for Mr. Slim, if you will, as he is speeding around, coming in the backstreet, gets knocked out, jammer takeout, but it looked as though the man in yellow held his ground and got called for blocking out of bounds.
That's Aben drinking.
Yeah, he gets a major. Meanwhile, it is Mr. Jonathan R. out front, but not lead jammer. When we do have one now, called off quickly, smart strategy, and why, sir, you continue to fight to get through the pack.
Exactly, continue to fight, and then Virginia Slim is knowing that they are not only playing now against the Death Shock, they're starting to play against the Death Clock that is tipping down at this moment. They are 20 points behind, which is not a lot, but they need to pull something out within, say, the next 5 minutes to turn this game into their favor, to make it so it's a possible comeback. Speaking of coming back from the past with those rental skates on, Jurassic Park and Circle Jerk.
Yes, sir, ladies and gentlemen, out here on DNN. Oh, and a beautiful move, almost the equivalent of a crossover, if considered in Derby, untouched.
Jurassic Park, like I said, have rental skates, will travel.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to get me a pair tomorrow.
Meanwhile, Circle Jerk does a 360, staying on his skates, pretty graceful for a pretty large gentleman. You wouldn't think it's that graceful. Good effort. Not in lead jammer, but he is in the jammer in the lead of the pack at this point.
Jurassic Park going back-to-back with Skate Breed. Finally gets through. 4 points up on the board now for the Dirty Homicide. He's calling off that jam before Circle Jerk can start to make his second pass and score any points. That's another 4 points down for the Dirty Homicide, and they are now down to only a 16-point deficit against the Death Shock.
Righto. Now we have to give a small shout out to the people we love to hate and hate to love, because here at Dorton Arena they have put together a prime crew of referees, which we do know is the hardest job. We love to hate them and all the jokes, etc., but they do a very tough job, and they are together. The head ref is Mistrial. Your two jam refs are Bat Fasterson and Recti Fire. Inside is Stegosaurus, and your outside pack refs are Ann Prasad and the very bright Dayglow Divine.
And Persan has been around roller derby since it started here in its men's exchange, and we are off now. Gonna take a look. We got Justice Feelgood Marshall through the pack, and he is your lead jammer. Once again, Dirty Homicide definitely coming to make a comeback here as they've controlled the last few jams.
Oh, and
Master of Muppets takes a hard fall in the front. Then gets knocked in the head and does a helicopter spin to the back on his knees.
That was inadvertent. Had his head sticking into the track and got hit by a player. Didn't see him, but still kind of a little bit of a noggin knock there. He's on his feet, but dealing with a stout defense is now at 61-77. Maybe they did get this turnaround going. Jam 36, one minute or so left in this jam. 10 minutes, a lot of derby time, or Murby time, should I say.
Justice Feelgood Marshall against Filthy McNasty. Up in the front, he gets through. 5-point grand slam for Justice Feelgood Marshall.
And the gentleman in the bright green tights, Filthy, the lead blocker there for the men in yellow, has to pump his fist in anger twice in a row to let Justice Feelgood get by. That was his responsibility, and it happened twice. We're turning around, 77-76, my friend.
Now we're seeing the pastor of Muppets holding back in a defensive jam right now, trying to hold back Justice Feelgood Marshall. Feelgood Marshall sidesteps and gets right past him and is heading in for yet another scoring pass.
He is eligible for a grand slam as the referee tapped his wrist guard on his helmet, which tells you, if I signal, that that's possible. There's 13 seconds to go, and all he has to do is get through the pack all the way. They're beating him up pretty good. I'm not sure if he's going to get that grand slam that he rightfully could get if he got through the pack.
Will Jennison knocking him around like he looked like a hammer at the end of a nail, like at the end of a hammer, just beating Feelgood Marshall. What an amazing jam that was. A couple of the skaters actually high-fiving and hugging each other from the opposite teams.
Oh, nothing like
We
Murby.
are now down to only an 8-point difference
Yes.
as the Death Shock and the Homicide. 8-point difference from 77 to 69. And 50 seconds left. We got ourselves a roller derby bout.
Oh, man. Nothing like Murby and man hugs. You know, one thing I think is they should maybe dress like the women. That might make it a little bit more exciting, but I'm really just kidding. They have got good
Chip, if you want to see
uniforms.
men in dresses,
Yeah.
that's your own personal
Well,
time.
you know, I've been known to. Never mind. Anyway, no, these guys working it hard. In yellow and black again, it is the Death Shock, the Dirty Homicide in their army greens, but lead jammer by Jonathan R., number 6 for the Death Shock.
Jonathan R. out there, lead jammer. He is looking down on the outside of the pack. We got Dr. Spankenstein got through, and he's trying to make a stride, trying to get back in this game. They do not want to give up any more points to the Death Shock. Death Shock got 4 on the board, and they are out.
Scored 4 points to pull away just slightly, 81-69. Just under 8 minutes to go. Still a lot of time. If the Homicide can make the right adjustments here, they can get it back to give us that exciting end. And really, to be honest, there's been great derby, but we have not had that exciting finish yet. And maybe this is going to start it off and then lead into the next 2 awesome
I would
bouts.
love to end the Eastern Regionals with 3 close bouts. Thank you, men, for bringing us the first close bout of the weekend. As we get Circle Jerk coming up on the line for Death Shock against Davy Jones for the Dirty Homicide.
That's right, these 2 guys going at it. Can't wait for those ladies to do it later to show them how it's done. Back of the pack being held by both sets of blockers. Quick outside, Davy Jones trying to take advantage. He's getting pushed, stays up.
Aben
but
Drinkin.
Abraham Regan was out of play, so he could come in front of him. He does not get called for a major or minor cutting the track. Nice move there.
But Davy Jones now cannot get lead jammer status. Circle Jerk now doing what he's doing. It looks like he's mocking to the crowd, I am a derby god, but what he's really doing is running down the clock.
Which is smart play. He could have just immediately done it, but he's going to do it before he can possibly score a point. Takes off another 10 or 15 seconds. They can work the clock just like most other major sports. Very, very smart play by Mr. Circle Jerk.
Head coach for the Stepford Sabotage. He definitely knows what he's doing in roller derby.
Yeah, I don't understand. Coach Crotchless and Circle Jerk as a skater, I'm not even going there.
It's like Clark Kent and Superman.
But
You're not
kinda,
supposed to know
yeah.
they're the same person, but if you can't see through the glasses, you got a problem.
Yeah, it's a little bit more naughtier. Speaking of which, a geezer pumping up the crowd. They are our announcer corps friends. We are glad that they are enjoying the derby as much as we are. And not to mention, we get all the pictures to send on the internet.
Exactly. Just want to recap right now.
Okay,
we have
let's
a
do that.
score of 81 for the Death Shock, 69 for the Dirty Homicide. We are looking at 6 minutes, 22 seconds left. We got Xena Paradox laughing at us as we speak.
I just bonked her in the head.
Oh,
I got
Chip
called for a
Queso's
minor.
getting so excited about men's derby. He's ready to strap on some skates.
She's much taller than I am and would take me out no problem.
Yes, she would.
Oh, hope you're having a good time, ladies and gentlemen, at home. Gathered around with friends, gathered around the computer or the big screen shot on the wall, whatever you've got. Enjoying DNN's coverage. Reverend Almighty here. I'm Chip Queso. It is a beautiful thing, no matter how you look at it.
Beautiful, beautiful weekend of roller derby. We've had it all, and I'd just like to say to my lady fans out there, hello, ladies. And I'll be calling y'all soon down the road. But we are back to roller derby. We got Zach Sabbath off the line for the Death Shock. We got Jurassic Park out there for the Dirty Homicide. Score 81-69.
That's right. And quick note, ladies, run fast, run away. But we have a lead jammer status for the Dirty Homicide. That would be, who is that, Rev?
Rental Skates
Rental Skates
himself,
again.
Jurassic Park.
He is kicking the Jurassics out of the yellow team on that jam so far. 124 left on the jam clock, 5:45. As finally through is Zach number 4, Zach Sabbath.
Jurassic Park is through for 4. That's going to bring this 81-69 game a little bit closer, as we are now looking at 81-73 with the 4 points he just scored. 5 minutes, 26 seconds left on the game. I'm going to call a bout right after this. I hope my voice comes back.
Right, well.
I thought this was going to be just kind of, watch this.
Yeah, exactly. It is not.
Hell.
This is good stuff. And Davy Jones on the line, Jonathan R., 2 powerhouses. We've got a 8-point lead, 5 minutes to go. This is where it really comes into play. Again, these guys are reps and coaches. They help out. They've been practicing on their skates, playing for this. This is where it counts in the national audience to see what Merby Men's Derby can be all about.
Exactly. We call it Merby. We call it Dangle Derby. We call it a lot of things. But this is men's flat track roller derby, and it is insane.
It is good stuff. The very athletic Jonathan R., number 6, is caught in the middle of the pack between camo green shirts, trying to squeeze through to power his team to back to the momentum he needs, and he finally takes a little bit of a, let's say, shorts whip from his lead blocker there to get lead jammer status, and then jammer on jammer take out on Davy Jones right there.
Beautiful move by Jonathan R. as he's pumping his fist to the air. It's psych. He now controls his destiny in this jam, as Davy Jones is now about 3/4 of the way back on the track. He's got the ability now to open up that lead just a little bit.
Filthy McNasty goes to the box. Not what they need, but still in control is Jonathan R., so maybe it's not too bad as he scores 4 more points. As soon as they get a little close, creep in, they pull it back away. They've been dominating from period 1 all the way through. Let's see if they can continue for 3 minutes and change.
12 points, 3 minutes, that can happen. It's definitely, we see it happen all over this weekend. 12-point jams over and over again. But what we're looking at here is the tightest game we have seen all weekend. And I'm glad I don't have a chair, because I sure as hell wouldn't be sitting in it.
No, absolutely. But who's not sitting, who's on the jammer line is Circle Jerk for the men in yellow, and Justice Feel-Good Marshall. 3 minutes, 15 seconds to go. Jam number 41 as Justice gets put on the ground, rolls, gets up quickly by the man with the number ace.
What
Meanwhile,
an amazingly hard hit. I hope he had a pad seat back there. But Circle Jerk, once again, your lead jammer. And as we've seen tonight, he is the king of making that clock wind down.
not only that, but that was almost like a dance move, if you will. He jumped and did a crossover, landing on his crossover foot in the air. Very athletic.
Almost like a jam skater, which he has
Exactly,
been
jam
many
skater.
times in the
I
past.
bet he can jam, pajammy jam, but he is right now wearing the star helmet for his team, the Death Shock. Now 12 points ahead, 1 minute on the jam clock, 2:25, and there is action all over as the pack slows down.
And that was a grand slam for the Circle Jerk. He is now just basically holding back, watching Feelgood go through the pack, looking at the clock, and controlling his own derby destiny right now. He's going to run, I bet, the full 40 seconds. No, he's called off the jam.
And we
This-
may see them, they're 95 points to 73. They may reach the century mark, which I'm sure is one of their goals. They may have thought that they could do it with a bigger differential because it's still pretty close. But Clock is now the demon of Dirty Homicide, and they may not want to go murder themselves.
You're actually right. 22 points now.
Yeah.
Separate these two teams. You got 1 minute and 47 seconds left. We're on a timeout.
Yeah,
I don't need
and
this roster anymore. I know all these guys like the back of my hand now because I've just seen some of the best roller derby I've seen in a long time. Amazing, amazing play. They played by the book. They played by the WFTDA book.
Yes.
And they've shown the world, yes, we can play this game. We can play it clean. We can play it hard hitting. We can play it fast action. And man, that score right now is the tightest score we have seen. It was great to see two evenly. You know, these teams were created by 4 teams. And I'm
Right,
glad
right.
that they created even teams so that they would have the opportunity to show a good, clean, tight bout.
Man, I'll tell you what, if they had a best out of 3, I don't think I could call it. It's that close. Right now, Death Shock, you know, in lead, looks like they're going to come away with it. A big differential of 21 points left. But you're right, man. This is great stuff. It's good to see this. It continues the evolution of flat track roller derby and what it's all about and why America needs to realize this is just basically the definition of awesome.
Roller derby is the fastest growing sport, not just nationally, but internationally. And we're about to start what could be the final jam of the night. Jurassic Park against Abe Been Drinking.
They've been drinking. They were both dancing slightly on the back line there to jockey for position. And a quick outside move. Gaining lead Jammer. The clock is against him, but he can make something happen. He can call a timeout and get maybe 2 jams. It is possible.
He's got 1 minute and 37 seconds left on the jam clock, which is ahead of the game clock. So if he can score, I mean, you'd be looking at 4.5 passes.
Yeah. Meanwhile, his team is telling him to move up. Again, they have to keep a pack definition, but they are definitely controlling the speed of it because the blockers in green can't pull away and cause penalties. So therefore, we're at a minute of real time, not jam time. And if he gets by, and he does, and he scores 5 points, that's going to put them up to 78. I think it's a little bit too late, but it's good effort.
Well, they still got a minute left. Yeah, they are not holding this off. They are thinking that this is the final jam, and they are going to earn the points that they can as quickly as they can. Nice, clean, great derby all the way around.
42 jams, and it has been great pretty much to the wire the whole way through. A little break from the awesome ladies to see the men. I am a
Men
fan.
are begging him to call off the jam. They're begging him to call off the jam. The men are screaming for a timeout. 12 seconds left of the game. And yes, the timeout is there. We are now looking at an 11-point game.
Okay, so here's what you do, I suppose. Who's the jammer that's rested, and who's your top tier? Because you have to get 11 points. That defense has to hold,
The first thing
and
you have
pull
to
back.
do is get lead jammer status.
Exactly, and they got to be smart about holding back, and then at the same time, they have to control it, because if the yellow gets lead jam, called off, good night.
Absolutely, and if we both look over there in the penalty box, there's nobody
Exactly.
sitting in the penalty box. Both teams are up to full capacity. Both teams want this game. They want to be the first team to win in front of the world on DNN for men's roller derby.
Right.
And now we're looking right now. These teams are taking this as seriously as the winner of this game goes to national.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, they are rocking this out.
Okay.
What a great comeback. What a great bout we've seen so far. We're looking at 11 points, so 12 wins
Okay.
the game. Anything less sends you home.
top tier talent being sent out. We are starting off with your pivot in yellow, Circle Jerk. Teen Wolf joining him, and Marlon Brando with Vader Ace as your blockers. Who else does the yellow put on the line? The number 6 as jammer, Jonathan R.
We got Justice Feelgood Marshall on the line. Davy Jones, Dr. Spankenstein, Virginia Slim.
This is the number 1 lineup. Both gentlemen go. Justice out to a little bit of a quicker start with a fobble. Jonathan takes an outside line, approaching through the pack. He's getting beat up outside, continuously pushed. Justice Feelgood Marshall is in the back of the pack.
Justice Feelgood's back in the back. Jonathan R. is trying to hit him with everything they can to try to keep it. Jonathan R. gets lead jammer and calls it off as the Death Shock becomes the first men's Eastern Regional champions, I guess we'll call it. What the hell?
That was beautiful stuff. He worked, and got through, and a beautiful call off because they knew they had it. 94-83, the Death Shock over the Dirty Homicide. Great stuff,
And
Derby
take
fans.
a look at the track. Take a look at the love that they're receiving
Wow.
by all members. Charm City, who just a few years ago said, we don't ever want to see men's roller derby. They now support the Harm City Homicide. We have teams out there that a couple years ago were like, men's roller derby? What are you, crazy? Like I said, my feet must be cold. Hell is frozen over. Men's derby is here. It's probably here to stay because they just made a fan out of Chip Kiesel, I
I
believe.
tell you what, and as I turn back around and we look in the camera and all the people watching out there, thank you again for everybody joining us. One of the things you want to stick around for that's interesting about this beautiful arena is you can see the light shining on our left sides of our face. What Charm City and what Boston are going to have to deal with is the sunshine coming over and creating a shadow that crosses across the track. They not only have to deal with that, they're going in with the mindset of lose, go home. So ladies and gentlemen, stick around for more great flat track roller
Coming up
derby.
right now, we got Bob Noxious. I'm the Reverend Almighty.
I'm Chip Queso. We're out of here. Stick around. Thank you.
Have a great weekend, guys.